Not just Cappies today. You guys also get some bonus monkey DLC. Today we're doing some coaching. So I'm going to take some replay IDs from the general public, from you in chat. And I'm going to be reviewing the gameplay, trying to give you guys some useful tips. And maybe if you're watching this at home on YouTube, you might also be able to integrate some of this advice. So hopefully this is helpful. Let's review some replays. Coach Broski is back on the job. So, you are a Blanka player, and you said, I feel like my current weaknesses are drive management and understanding when I have opportunities through spacing. Okay, let's check out the replay, see what's going wrong, and if that is indeed the issue. 1600 MR, 1640.
Time to erase you.
This was a tournament match? Okay, let's see what's going on. I'll watch out the whole round, and then I think we'll go back, because there's already a few things I've noticed. Nice punish. Good reactions on that. Okay. Alright, that's not too bad. Exchanging the burnouts is fine there. Okay. So there's a few things to pick up on here from the start. So, round start jump is one of those things where I don't generally recommend it. If you're super confident in your read, if you have good information about the player you're playing against, like maybe if you've played a few sets already and you're used to this, I can understand it, but generally I don't advise such a high-risk option instantly. It's not necessarily an inherently bad thing because, again, it could be context-dependent, but round start jump is a little bit risky. Get anti-aired. Takes the throw. Okay, so this is fake as hell. I'll just turn on frame data here. Maybe you just panicked because it's not a thing that Aki players would usually do here. Forward throw into puddle is -19. Like, this is just Aki saying, please punch me in the face. Okay, so you might be confused because you see me do drive rush here and I'm getting a counter hit. And you're thinking, wait, why is that counter hitting? Shouldn't this be a punish counter? Aki's puddle is weird. And this is a punish, but it's not a punish counter for specific reasons about how punish counters actually work in this game. So this is a legit punish. It's like Jamie's drink, Ryu's Hashogeki charge. Any move in this game which doesn't have a hitbox attached to it does not actually have a punish counter state. It's like a weird side effect of this game's mechanics. So yeah, if the move does not actually hit the opponent, if it's just like setting something up, it actually never has punish counter recovery. So that's why that's counter hitting, just so you know. Yeah, that is a punish. You could do drive rush heavy kick here. I think you still get a punish even on back tech, to be honest. But you would need to drive rush. Yeah, that's still a punish. Just something to be aware of. That was nice. Very important thing in this matchup, just to highlight it. Blanka has a very good reactive punish to Aki's projectile, so that was nice. That's what you should be doing. Do not let her throw fireballs from that distance. Yeah, why did you get hit here? What were you doing? This was the first point that I was confused. Oh, you plinked parry. Classic error. Okay, I have this error too, so I can't blame you for this. This is a good case study for why it's optimal to use a parry macro in this game. So what you did, if you look at the top left, is you pressed parry manually, but because you pressed medium kick fractionally before the parry, rather than getting a parry, you actually got the startup of stand medium kick, and that meant you got counter hit. So this is why having a parry macro is optimal, because this can happen from time to time. You have to make sure you're pressing medium punch and medium kick on the exact same frame. Okay. Feels like, just as a general tip, it feels like you're not super comfortable just like holding down the neutral. Like, I've noticed there's been like a few times where like a little stare down occurs and then you just kind of panic jump a lot, like here. So this is the first like moment of downtime where you're kind of back to a neutral state pretty much since the round began, and it's like you hold that for a second and then kind of panic jump. Like, was the question is, was there intention here? Like, were you intentionally trying to jump over like a fireball read, or were you just up forwarding because you felt like you needed to do something? So I can't say if that's the right play or not. It just depends on like what were you thinking in the moment. The exile ball. Okay, so you got kind of lucky here. You got burned out, but you also got the mutual burnout. This is not a bad position for you. Like, I would say, but right now, both of you have a 50-50 chance of winning. Yes, Aki does have very good burnout pressure, but the reason that Aki's burnout pressure is so threatening is because it can end with a drive impact. So actually, you're not in a bad spot here. Like, it seems like you're terrified of Aki's burnout pressure, but like, you got to ask yourself, like, why am I actually scared here? Because even if she does the burnout loop on you, there's no threat of a DI because she's in burnout. So you can kind of just block and, you know, it's not that scary. And the other thing is, if you are blocking while in burnout, you get your resource back faster than she does, right? So if you actually just blocked the burnout loop, you would have got out of burnout before her. You would still be at risk of a throw mix-up, but at this point, you could have taken like 5 throws. I think only like throw number 5 would have killed you here. You'd have to have gotten hit by a lot of throws from this point. So I feel like you were panicking, but you were actually not in a terrible spot to just play defensively. You're so used to like burnout being checkmate for Aki that you're probably panicking and not realizing that there's not actually a threat of DI or anything. Makes sense. Okay, nice start. That's unfortunate. I just gotta say, I hate when this happens. This is a personal pet peeve of mine in this game, is like, you knew, you kind of had the right read here. You knew that your opponent was not gonna go for a throw. You read the shimmy correctly. You did not bite on the shimmy. You tried to take your turn back with a crouch jab, but unfortunately, that ended up having the exact same effect as if you'd been shimmied anyway because it was out of range, and they get the punish counter. So that's a frustrating situation that happens in this game sometimes. Like, you know they're not gonna throw you. You try and take your turn back on the shimmy and you still effectively get shimmied anyway. So I would recommend in this situation, get used to waking up with mediums. I know it can feel very anti-Street Fighter, but in this game, waking up with mediums is actually really important sometimes because shimmies can beat jabs like that. Okay. Corner pressure, nice. Jump medium punch. Ah, you gotta finish that combo. That was your big opening. Like, you got the air blanker ball, and that's plus from that spacing. You gotta be hit confirming that though. You got the 2 light kicks and then sort of autopiloted. And again, 2 lights is more than enough time to hit confirm. You gotta be finishing these combos. That's 2 consecutive hits you got that didn't lead to anything. Okay, raw activate. Nice. Nice bait. Okay, it's getting a little bit messy. What happened here? Hang on, let me go back a second. That's, yeah. I think this is something you need to be very careful with, is that, like, I've noticed a lot of players have this issue where when you get an opportunity for a big punish, you just default to, like, DRC. There was absolutely no reason to DRC here. You had 100 years to do a punish. You could have done walk up heavy kick after level 3. But it's like, DRC is so tempting that you lose sight of your own drive situation. Like, you are in a game-winning situation from here. And that DRC kind of instantly put you into a bad position. So you got to unlearn that impulse to use DRC as your, like, default combo starter. because then you put yourself in burnout and now your mix isn't as scary. You do get the mutual burnout, which is fine. Okay, so same situation again, but you are defending this time. Okay. Okay, and then that's basically checkmate from here. So I think, just to go back a second, I think it's really important when it comes to like Street Fighter matches is to like pinpoint the pivot moments, like the moments where you kind of like change the timeline to this outcome. So for me, the moment that you kind of lost this round was the decision to DRC right here. Like, it might not be obvious, but this DRC probably is what lost you the match, even though you were in the position to punish the level 3. So keep in mind that you've got a lot of time to think about this stuff, you know? In the heat of the moment, it can feel like you have to press a punish instantly, but Aki's level 3 is minus a million. You've got more than enough time to walk forward and then still press a heavy, so try not to panic in punish moments. The other thing I would say, I'm actually going to jump over to training mode real quick. One thing you should know about this matchup is that none of Aki's supers will hit Blanka during his level 2 pressure. I labbed this a long time ago. Yeah, there it is. So you don't really need to give a shit about any of like Aki's reversal options here, because they all fail against Blanka's level 2 pressure. You just pass straight through. It's either a true block string like this, like that's a true block string, or if it's not a true block string, it still misses. So although you did get the bait here by just not doing the follow-up, you don't really need to go for the bait at all. It's the same for level 3, I think. Just completely ignore her level 3, because it just does not work. So yeah, treat Aki as if she has no reversal whatsoever in this situation. Like, you just straight up cannot level 3 this thing. Any thoughts on the drive management and spacing? Yeah, so you mentioned at the start that you felt drive management was an issue. And like I said, I did pinpoint the autopilot punish with going for a drive rush cancel when you didn't need to is what you got killed. So it's not just about drive management, it's more also about just planning your combos in advance and not autopiloting. But I don't feel like you were doing anything like outrageously wrong. I feel like you were just panicking a little bit in some situations. So just try and keep locked in, you know? You're on the right lines. Okay, should we move on to the next replay? Okay. I feel I'm extremely inconsistent and take unnecessary risks. I've been stuck above 1500 MR for a while now. I think offensively I'm more or less decent, but defensively I suck at defense. I mean, I get what you're saying, but also that's normal. This is a thing that a lot of people say in these segments. They say like my offense is decent, but my defense needs work. That's just Street Fighter, I'm afraid. Especially in this game, offense is very straightforward a lot of the time. Defense in this game takes a lot of time to work. Like, to be able to run offense in Street Fighter 6, all you need to understand is your own character's tools. To be able to run defense, you have to understand every character's tools. So it's a big ask, so if you feel like you're falling behind defensively, that is normal, but we'll have a look. So you're the jury player, 1508 MR. Yeah, defense is much harder to learn than offense. That's just the way it works in fighting games. Ground star drive rush. Okay, you're taking a lot of risks early on. I think one thing that's the two of you have in common, the last two replays, is, I think I've mentioned this before, but fighting games are an information exchange, and it becomes easier to deal with an opponent once you know what they're doing. Like, the best way to deal with people in fighting games is to know roughly what their kind of overall style is. Like, are they offensive, defensive, do they take risks, all this stuff. You want to gather as much information as possible about your opponent to try and exploit their weaknesses. You're giving away so much information about yourself in the first 2 seconds of the round. You're instantly drive rushing in, which worked out, and then instantly going for an extremely risky dive kick, which gets punished. Like, you've already given away so much information about your opponent. Just slow it down. Slow it down. Spend a little bit of time in neutral, figuring out, like, what style of opponent you're playing against. Because right now, not only have you taken the opening hit, but you also have absolutely no information about this Kami player. This Kami player has done nothing but block and punish. So not only are you now at a health deficit, you still have no data about your opponent's playstyle. So you need to slow right down. Okay, EXDP. Still jumping. Drive reverse into DI. Oh, you're just doing stuff now. This is very panicky. Okay, okay. You do get the hit. This is very scrambly. Buttons are being pressed at an astonishing speed. Okay, right. This is just more of the same. It feels like you're trying to suffocate your opponent before they get a chance to adapt to your very rushdown style. And it's getting you killed. The drive reversal here is not a bad choice. Because your opponent's in burnout, so this is still safe. But the DI afterwards is risky. And then you woke up with... You're just mashing, I'm gonna be honest. I'm trying to phrase it delicately, but at this point, you're just mashing. You need to just stop for a second and just think about like what position you're in, what options are available to you, what the situation is right now. You know, you need a bit of downtime here because it's just like so much is happening and you're just like hitting buttons in the panic. I'm not even sure why you're mashing light DP on wake up here. This is a common bit of advice that I give out to players at this level, but you need to get used to not doing anything. The grind, it's kind of funny, like the grind to master is learning how to do stuff, but then once you get to master, once you hit 1500 MR, you now need to learn how to not do stuff. Because if you just keep trying to smother people with rushdown, they're just gonna pick up on it pretty quickly and then just do this, you know? So yeah, your opponent just let you kill yourself here, really. So slow right down, and just try and get some information about your opponent. It's a lot of drive you're spending. Okay. Risky, but it worked out, so I'll allow it, the DI. Just to consider, this is another thing I want to point out to you. So the DI did go through here. So I won't say it was the wrong choice, but just to consider the situation here, you had corner control and a life lead. You are in what is basically the optimal state of Street Fighter 6, right? Corner control is everything in this game. If he had counter DI'd you here, you would have not only been put straight into burnout, but if your opponent is good, they will also do a side switch combo, and you instantly go from the best possible situation to the worst possible situation. So the DI did go through, but this is an enormous risk you took right there for relatively small reward. Very panicky, and then you get level 3, yeah. Gotta slow it down. Backdash, full screen drive rush. Jury does have a very good drive rush, so I can't get too mad about the drive rush from full screen. Okay, just to stop right here, just to pause real quick. You're actually not in a terrible position right here. I don't know what's going to happen next, but this is not actually that bad of a spot to be in the final round. Your opponent is only up to like 1.5 bars of drive gauge, and one thing that's important to think about in Street Fighter 6 is drive thresholds. I kept trying to pause it to find a frame that wouldn't turn chat feral, and I just couldn't find one. It's just the way of Cammy, you know? Anyway, what I was saying was, drive thresholds. Anything below 3 bars of drive means that your opponent cannot do a drive rush cancel, and therefore becomes much less scary, especially a character like Cammy. Because the main way that Cammy gets in is crouch medium kick drive rush a lot of the time. So you're actually, even though you're at a health deficit here, you have a slight drive lead. You're not in a terrible spot right now. If Cammy does a well, the trades. If Cammy does a DRC, she burns out and you probably win. You're still not in a bad spot here, honestly. That's a decent DI. It's relatively safe. No whiff punish. And then you... Okay. And then you get chipped. Yeah. Alright. Panic. So panicked. It's really important to identify when you're actually in a decent position. So right here, once again, I would say if I was a betting person, this is actually an advantageous position for Jury. Your opponent is currently, just to make clear once again, this is why I'm saying slow down, because you need to consider the situations. If you actually look at this situation that you're in right here, your opponent is in burnout. They have less than 50% health. It's the final round and they don't have any super bar. Like, this is definitely an advantageous position for Jury, even though you have less health. I get the impression you felt like you were on the back foot here. Missed the whiff punish, and then this drive rush cancel was completely unnecessary. You also have stocks. Yeah, you have 2 stocks, bearing in mind that Jury can give herself plus frames very easily in burnout. If you just do normal into fireball, you're plus. Because now Cammy's nearly out of burnout. So this is why I'm saying, like, it's so important to slow down. Not just because you're taking a lot of risks, but also because it feels like you didn't notice that you actually had a good position. I think you felt like you were in a bad spot right here, when actually you were in the better position right now, but you just didn't take advantage of it. So yeah, situational awareness stuff. You gotta slow down and try and gather more information about your opponent to exploit. And don't autopilot drive rush cancels. Those are the main takeaways, I think. Thanks for all the submissions, and we'll do this again at some point in the future.